amusing yesterday to see yet another grouping of handful of Conservative MPs, or is it just the same ones? It's hard to tell, but bumping up against a very dodgy news cycle. Most of GB News's output yesterday seemed to be minute by minute locations of the King and suggesting that Prince Harry was carcinogenic. Anyway, yeah, leaving that aside, yes, we had the launch of the Popular Conservatives, grassroots organisation, cough cough, as you may recall from one of my earlier videos. Yes, anyway, the PopCons UK, and yes, I thought it was worthwhile sort of thinking about what they're into. So they're a new grouping, and they're heavily into Thatcherite values. They've got an emphasis on stopping migration and tax cuts, inevitably. Notable members are Liz Truss, and they're influenced quite a lot by various people at Tufton Street. Yes. Now, various people get confused with these conservative groupings, so I think it's worthwhile just sort of listing the other ones that are out there. There's the sort of 5 of them primarily. There's the European Research Group, who are a grouping that are heavily kind of into Thatcherite values. They've got an emphasis on stopping migration and tax cuts. Notable members, obviously, are Liz Truss, and they're quite heavily influenced by a variety of Tufton Street groups. You get the Common Sense Group, you may remember them being launched. Yes, they're heavily into Thatcherite values with an emphasis on stopping migration, and they're quite keen on tax cuts as well. Notable member obviously is Liz Truss, and they are sort of quite heavily influenced by a variety of people at Tufton Street. Yes, and you may have forgotten the Conservative Growth Group. They're sort of quite heavily into Thatcherite values. They've got an emphasis on stopping migration and obviously tax cuts. Yeah, notable members are Liz Truss, I do believe, and they're quite influenced by various Tufton Street think tanks. Yes, I'm sure you recall with some glee, as I did indeed, the launch of the National Conservatives, the Nat-Cs, about 2 years ago in London. They're a grouping who are quite heavily influenced by major fascist works of the 20th century and are into Lebensraum, I believe, in various overseas territories. Notable members are Liz Truss, and they're heavily influenced by Tufton Street. Yes. Does anybody care? Is what I would have to say. I mean, we know that these things will make a vague splash, but does anybody really buy into the notion that these people that have been in power for 15 years are going to magically do anything? I mean, if you sort of listen to Liz Truss's speech, there's a link down below if you really want to doze off. The least charismatic woman since Theresa May saying something. I mean, if you really want to sort of like listen to her blaming the fact that having been in power for 15 years, they haven't been able to do anything because, in fact, the left has won. Great. Go home then. There you go. Let us try and get on with it, for God's sake. But no, obviously not. Obviously not. There's always that new shining dawn for the people who are chosen. Anyway, do have a lovely Wednesday, if you can. It's getting really blowy, isn't it, eh? Jeez. And it's going to be wet. Yeah.